Hola, hola, Dios te bendiga. Bienvenido a nuestro canal de YouTube, Pastor Alexis Vargas Oficial. Si todavía no te has suscrito, por favor suscríbete, activa la campana de las notificaciones.
Bienvenidos todos a un nuevo programa, todos los que se están conectando, bienvenidos a un nuevo día. Como todos sabemos, ayer se realizó la audiencia de Rosa, más que todo una conferencia en Zoom, donde abordaron muchos temas. El juez comenzó a pedir pruebas, comenzó a pedir evidencias. La fiscalía, como siempre, retardando la justicia, no llevó pruebas y esto como que ha molestado un poco al juez. Así que puede ser de que se programe ya fecha, hora para este juicio. Se le dieron unos días a la fiscalía para que presentara las evidencias que faltan para así proseguir a lo que es el juicio. Pero si no hay una prueba contundente, no hay una prueba concluyente, puede ser que el caso lo desestime, que sería bastante difícil, más sin embargo, no imposible. Así, estamos esperando a ver qué sucede en estos próximos días, si la fiscalía cumple, aunque ya tiene 10 meses para presentar estas pruebas y no lo ha hecho. Por lo consiguiente, deducimos que no tienen la prueba, mas sin embargo, vamos a esperar qué resolución da el juez. Quiero que miremos parte de las audiencias, vamos a estar dando partes de las audiencias ya traducidas en español para que vayamos analizando lo que está sucediendo en el caso de Derek Rosa. Así que les leo unos comentarios, vamos a estar por la tarde dando un análisis completo de todas las audiencias, así que Dios me les bendiga y les dejo parte de la audiencia ya traducida al español.
Your record where you raised these issues. And just like when you have asked for a competency determination, or you raise insanity or any other psychological issue, you've raised it, and now it's open. And since you believe it's a part of the reason why you believe that Miami-Dade Corrections is not the appropriate place, they're responsible for his conditions. Why would they not be entitled to, ma'am, I am actually legally permitted to interrupt you, but and I'll try not to unless it's really for order, but I'm going to ask you not to interrupt me. That's just not the way the feature works. That's quite all right. I sorry to have to say it, but it is. So if your allegations are because of his ADHD and autism, the jail is not sufficient. This jail is not sufficient. Why would the jail not be entitled to be able to look at his records to determine if in fact it's as severe as you want some people to believe? And second, are there accommodations they could make? So it would seem that by raising the issue, you've opened the door to this. I'm going to suggest this, and tell me if it works for you. Because the jail needs to be aware, they provide the doctors. They have a contract with JMH to provide the medical facility, the doctors that look at him physically, the psychologists that look at him mentally. And as I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Jones-Cummings, but my understanding is that there's at least a weekly medical and psychological check going on with this young man. I've seen these records before. They do a daily psychological check. So they are not held, however, by Miami-Dade Corrections and Rehabilitation. They're held by JMH. So when I hire a doctor to do a psychological evaluation, I enter an order authorizing them to review the JMH records. Why would it not be appropriate here for me to enter an order that Miami-Dade Corrections and Rehabilitation, to the extent they need it, have access to the JMH records with a very strict confidentiality provision that they may not disseminate it to anyone else except those who are essential within their legal team and to do the analysis. Why would that not be the appropriate thing to do?
May I?
Yes, ma'am.
So, thank you, Your Honor, for the request, for your clear outline of the court's position. In similar,
No, ma'am, it's not I don't take a position, ma'am. I review the law, I review the evidence, and I rule. It's not a position. What I do is enter orders, okay? So what I've done is, it's not a position. If the facts and the legal analysis that I've just explained to you are incorrect, then you need to tell me that and provide for me law and or evidence which indicates otherwise. I don't take positions, ma'am. I issue orders. Go ahead.
So in a similar vein with as the court raised the competency example, these are records that the hospital, because the hospital is bound by HIPAA, would not release just freely. So Patricia Jones in the court, when the defense had raised this issue of autism, ADHD, provided an order and put in quotations autism and quotations these mental health issues and asked for clarification. So in response to this request for the alleged autism that was testified to by several experts over the December hearing timeframe, that's why we then disclosed a portion of those records just to verify that the defense wasn't making this up. These are issues that were testified to in December. But in a competency, for example, with the court's example with competency, those records aren't just given out to anyone. They're given directly from doctor to doctor. The defense does have access to these records, and the defense would hand it over. For example, if the court appointed a doctor, we would turn those records over to the court doctor. So this request regarding, and I'll first start off with the FERPA in terms of the education issue. These are evaluations and meetings that are standardized by statute. So it's not a type of meeting where anyone can sit and participate unless there is a waiver by the parent of the child. So, for example, the school board attorney cannot sit in on these meetings without some sort of written waiver by that parent's child, or that child's parent, I should say. So that's why we're objecting to the participation in part of the jail attorney. She has no role in that substantive meeting in the sense that there's no position within the statute that authorizes or sets up these meetings for the jail attorney to participate.
We believe that we have followed the law as exactly as it should be, and that he was indicted and charged as an adult, and that he is in the correct place within Miami-Dade Corrections, where he is with all the other juveniles that are charged as adults being held.
Okay. Well, here, my only thought was, were the parties in this immediate action not concerned about it, then that would lead to discussions with DJJ as to their position. But since you've indicated that you object to it, and I'm inclined to follow the law, we are where we are. All right, let me move on then, because what we have is the defense has moved for a reconsideration. Here's the order I want to follow. We're going to deal with your motion for reconsideration and the issues surrounding that first. Then once we have reached a conclusion on that issue, then we're going to discuss discovery, and I know you don't believe you're going to hear this right now, trial scheduling on an expedited basis. So let's first deal with your motion for reconsideration. I took a look at the county's response, and I'm kind of interested in a couple of things. Kudos to the county, Ms. Jones-Cummings, for actually facilitating an examination of the educational needs for Mr. Rosa. The base of your motion, Ms. Riello, for a reconsideration of where Mr. Rosa is housed was mostly due to the lack of educational efforts and time that he was given for education. And it's exacerbated by what you allege to be his ADHD and that he may be somewhere on the autistic scale. Let me start by saying the documents you presented to me with regard to the ADHD do show, if you don't mind me speaking about it, because you did send them to me, it does indicate that a 504 plan, an IEP, was addressed as early as 2018. And for purposes of your motion and our proceedings, I accept that he suffers from ADHD. It's interesting that he's not compliant with his medication, which was the only thing that they suggested be followed on the 504 plan, but that's beside the point. I also noticed in the documents you sent, and I've also stored his medical records up to December 12. So I did a complete review of the 258 pages that were available on December 12 of last year. And there is an indication of previously undiagnosed autism. The doctors did some objective testing, and it looks like he's right on the borderline based upon the objective testing that was available as of December 12. But for purposes of your motion for reconsideration at this point, I accept that those are two medical issues and medical conditions that need to be, if not further explored, certainly taken into consideration in a determination of what educational efforts need to be made. Okay? So, again, I commend the Miami-Dade Corrections and Rehabilitation because they are responsible for his safety. They are responsible for his mental health. They are responsible for his physical health. And they are responsible for his education, in that they are the agency that is housing him at this time. And it appears that Ms. Jones-Cummings, in recognition of the responsibilities of the Miami-Dade Corrections and Rehabilitation, ordered up from the Miami-Dade public schools a 504, an evaluation, a conference during which the physical and emotional and psychological needs of a child are evaluated in attempting to determine what educational efforts are necessary for that child. Okay?
Ok, mi gente, vamos a estar analizando esta audiencia, esta conferencia que se realizó el día miércoles 21 de agosto, donde se abordó el caso Derek Rosa. Hubieron varios puntos que se abordaron, incluso el juez le preguntó a Rielos una posible fecha, si ya estaba lista, y ella dijo que no era la que estaba retardando el juicio. Hay posibilidades de que se vaya esto a juicio, pero vamos a estar analizando los posibles escenarios que se van a dar en este proceso. Fueron días los que se le dieron a la Fiscalía para que presentara toda la prueba. Si no, va a haber una reconsideración, se va a analizar el caso y todo es posible. Así que estemos orando. Que Dios me les bendiga. Leo los comentarios. Si no se han suscrito, suscríbanse. Denle a la campanita de notificación. Estaremos hoy a las 7 horas de Miami dando un análisis completo de lo que sucedió ayer y estos posibles escenarios. Que Dios me los bendiga, que Dios los cuide, que Dios mande ángeles ahí, hasta su hogar, hasta su trabajo, donde quiera que ustedes vayan. Dios bendiga su camino. Nos vemos hasta pronto. Bendiciones.